Excitement for Dragons Dogma 2 is building higher and higher as it isn't too far away with its release date of March 22nd. If you've been following the channel, you'll know we were lucky enough to actually play the game a couple of times at different previews, as well as keeping up to date with the latest news drops, and well, we have a few things that we can talk about and go into detail on, even if we can't show you exactly it due to different embargoes. So hopefully this will be helpful to you guys, as we actually got to experience some of these things ourselves from playing the game, instead of just guessing and waffling like some others, so we can tell you what we know from our actual hands-on playtime. Firstly, let's talk about stat growth, as this is a pretty big question for a lot of people out there. If you're unfamiliar with the first game, I'm going to recap it as best as I can to my knowledge. In the first game, stat growth was influenced by your vocation. When leveling up, you would increase your primary stats based on what your current vocation is. This meant leveling up as a mage or sorcerer and then swapping to a fighter or warrior would leave you with some undesirable stats that now aren't super useful to your new vocation. This actually led to different ways to min-max your stats, but did require playing certain vocations that you may have not actually wanted to play. Now, of course, none of this was actually needed for any of the content, even the harder stuff in the game, but for min-maxers out there, they either loved it because it allowed them to customize their character, or they hated it because they had to spend a bunch of time leveling vocations they didn't want to play, and it did just make swapping vocations a little less easy. So from my recent previews, I actually asked the staff exactly how this worked in Dragons Dogma 2, and even tested it myself by removing all of my character's items and equipment, and then switching between vocations to check the actual stat differences. I can't show the menus, but I can talk about it. I will just say this was a preview, things could change. I'm not 100% sure about this as I don't have the full game yet, but I'm pretty confident I understand the way that stat growth is handled in Dragons Dogma 2, so hopefully this is a little heads up for you guys so you can kind of know what to expect. In the stat screen, it looked like you had your base stats and then your stat growth on top of that. When you level up, you would gain stats tailored to the vocation that you're currently playing, a bit similar to the first game. However, when you switch vocation, it looked like the bonus stat growth on top of your base stats would actually move to the new vocation stat growth, meaning when you did something like switching from a mage to a warrior, you would have a big spike in your strength, and of course your magic would then go down. So it looks like the stat growth will actually move and reapply to the new vocation that you move into. This especially makes sense when you consider the new Warfarer vocation that has innately lower stats to compensate for its access to multiple weapons, means you can't just level up something else, then swap to the Warfarer and bypass that stat drawback, because the stat growth will sort of move with you and swap to the vocation that you change to. Overall, I think this is a nice improvement, and it makes trying out all of the different vocations a bit easier and more forgiving, but I'm sure some people will miss that level of customization that you would get by permanently keeping those stats as you leveled up. And then during our playtime, we actually managed to find a rare collectible in the world that gave us a bit of extra understanding as to how exploring is rewarded. Hidden in all different areas of the world, and the game describes this as being in all sorts of out of the way and unexpected places, you can find seeker tokens. They say you must leave no stone unturned, no corner of the world unexplored if you want to complete your collection. And there's going to be 240 of these scattered throughout the land. You can turn these into a guild hall, which will yield you with rewards and then more rewards as you progress your collection. We didn't manage to see what these rewards actually were, but I'm really hoping you will get something very good for finding all 240, which will make it worthwhile. A really interesting thing to note is that when we switched to the Trickster and actually checked its different augments and things, we noticed a very helpful one for this called Detection that will alert you with a sound and blinking light when you are near a seeker token or wakestone shard, making this an extremely helpful augment for finding these and just exploring in general. On a side note, the Trickster also had an augment called Enlightenment that gives you a chance to create one additional product when combining items, which also sounds very useful. So definitely keep an eye out on those Trickster augments, making it possibly worth leveling up just to get these quality of life things in your build. And then we have a couple details that we noticed about the new pawn specializations. We of course know that pawns will have access to a specialization which will be unlocked through certain quest knowledge and completion, such as understanding Elvish to help translate Elven dialogue with certain NPCs. But there's a couple more of these in the game that we actually got to see in our preview. One really cool one was a specialization that allows your pawn to haggle for you, resulting in better prices for selling and possibly buying too. This one sounds particularly good to have in your party for when you're you're doing a load of farming, so this is definitely one that I'll be keeping an eye on. There was another one that allows your pawns to manage your inventory for you, such as moving items around so no one gets encumbered, and that sounds really useful as well, so you can just avoid that manual time sorting your inventory. There was quite a few more of these, but these were the ones that stood out to me in my memory. Of course, in the recent Capcom showcase, we got to see some details about character death and how NPCs behave around monsters. Some will be more brave and will help you in the fight, while others might run away or cower in fear, so there is a lot of diversity. Death for NPCs, however, does mean they will go to a morgue where you can then revive them with a wake stone, but after a couple of days of being in the morgue, they get buried and then they're permanently lost. But what you might be interested to know is that from our time in the preview, we got to experience some special timed quests. These were quests that had to be completed in a set time or else you would fail them. From our playtime, this meant we had to rescue an NPC's kid, and if you didn't get there in time, then well, it wasn't looking good for the kid. So make sure to keep your eye on the quest menu, which again we can't show, but it'll be very obvious in the full game because these have a different quest icon, making them much easier to spot, and you have to prioritize doing those quests. And next up, it isn't exactly new news, but the official Dragons Dogma YouTube page has been dropping different Vocation gameplay spotlights for each of the Vocations in the game, showing us some extended gameplay clips for each of the classes that was only partially shown or teased before. So if you want to get a bit of an extra look at the different Vocations to help you choose which to play, here is the Vocations and the extended gameplay of them. Tell me in the comments which Vocation are you planning to play, because I am locked in on Mystic Spearhand after trying it out. It was just so much fun.